Hi there! Welcome to Artfully Sew, where we get creative with sewing, quilting, and upcycling projects. My name is Angela, and I love to take old things and make them new. So what are we going to do today? It's kind of a two-part process. The first part is going to be taking this sheet and finding fabrics to make a new quilt. This is an old sheet that I found at a thrift store. It's a vintage sheet. It says that it's a muslin, no iron sheet. So this is going to be the back side of my quilt. The new quilt would look similar to this quilt. This quilt was made from various scraps that I sewed together right on the Longarm machine. The back are just scraps of flannel that I pieced together, and then the middle is scraps of batting. To join up the seams, I used chenille, which is a wonderful product that I love. And I used black chenille to go around all of the seams. For this project that I'm making today, I don't have chenille that I want to use. I'm actually going to experiment with using strips of denim. This quilt was made from scraps. The new quilt that I'm going to make is also going to be made from scraps. Once I make a new quilt using these scraps and this sheet, I'm going to take that quilt and I'm going to make it into a coat. The pattern I'm going to use for the coat is this coat that I used for a different quilt coat I made a while ago. So the quilt, oh my gosh, this is so confusing. So I'm going to use that new quilt and make it into a coat using this coat as a pattern. I have the pieces still right here, all ready to go. And I'll sew that together and it will be an amazing coat.
I look handsome, I look smart, I am a walking work of art.
So first things first, I am going to take this sheet and pull all the fabrics out that I can that match. This is the fun part. I love finding the colors. So where's that color wheel? One of the tools that I love to use is this tool right here. Basically, it's a color planning tool. As you can see, there's all kinds of different colors that go through the whole entire color wheel. And what I do is I take my fabric and I lay this tool down and I try to find the colors that best match this fabric. And as I look here, it looks to me that this orange yellow and this golden yellow are the two primary colors in this fabric. What I can do then with these tools is I can look at all the colors that are printed on here to use to match this fabric, and it will look great. I label all of my scraps in these bins. This one is like all my yellows, golds, oranges, and browns, which is pretty general. Just by looking, you can see that not all of these fabrics are going to really match with this background fabric. So I'm going to use my tool to figure that out. The other thing I like about this tool is on the back side, it shows different color combinations that will match with these colors. You can have your monochromatics, complementary colors, analogous colors, or split complementary. Or you can even use the triad one where there's 3 colors. When I look at the back, I really like the split complementary colors on the orange yellow. It's showing like 4 or 5 different shades of orange and yellow that would match with this. And then I can use just that one color shade of blue as the accent color. I think that's going to look really cool. first part is done. So I'm going to take that coat and those pattern pieces that I used for the coat and measure out the batting that I'm gonna need for it. When I quilt for other people, I have lots of scraps that I've left over that aren't big enough to use for other quilts. So I'm going to piece some of those scraps together to make them fit. So I have the back piece, I have a couple sleeves, 1, 2 sleeves, and then the front 2 panels. So I'm gonna just piece together some of the batting first. The next step is cutting the scraps and ironing them out so that I can put them on the batting and quilt them to the backing. I might cut some of these scraps into smaller pieces. If I use a scrap this big on a piece this big, I'm not going to get a lot of patchy looks. So I'm just going to play around with the scrap sizes. If I keep them bigger, I can cut them down smaller later. I think I'll know better once I get them kind of ironed and get them sorted into lights, mediums, and darks. Because remember, with color, even though I'm basically working with 2 color palettes, in each of those colors I also have a range of value. Some of the value is really light, like this, and some of it's more dark, like this. We'll see. This is what I love to do. Experiment as I go. Welcome back to day 2. I mounted the sheet to the long arm. I pieced together the batting to match up with the pieces that I'm making for the coat. So like this is the back of the coat. That's this piece right here. I'm not going to lay it on there or it will stick, but this piece is this piece. I traced around the outside of it on the batting with some chalk so that I know kind of where the border line is. And then what I did is move them into 4 piles. 1 pile for this back piece, 1 pile for the front 2 panels, and a pile for the left sleeve and a pile for the right sleeve. Then I just took these piles and I laid it out onto this piece. I'm going to do this piece later. But let me turn this on. Before I had this long arm machine, I used to quilt all of my quilts on a regular Janome sewing machine. It was a lot of work, but it can be done. So don't be discouraged. You don't need this big machine. It is nice, I must confess, but you don't need it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quilt this down so that it doesn't shift. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Anyway, once I quilt this down, I'm going to cut these pieces out, and then I'm going to add chenille to it. I know I showed you this product called Chenille It, but I didn't have time to order it, so I'm going to make my own chenille tape. The tape is going to be this contrasting blue color. As you can see, doesn't it just like, woo, that's going to be cool. And the reason I picked this blue color is because remember, we're using these cards, and on the back it shows that the split complementary color is a blue violet, or kind of a blue color. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to stick to this shade. I'm going to stick to this tone or this saturation. I'm not going to vary like I did with the other fabrics. Okay, let's quilt this puppy. Here's a close-up of what I did on my long arm so far. There are going to be rough edges. Originally with chenille or any kind of ribbon or tape that you want, you can use on the edges of all of these quilt blocks, but I am going to not worry about those raw edges. When I wash it, these edges are gonna fray up a little bit, and that's okay. Welcome to day 3. I did a lot of work yesterday, but I didn't record it. So let me just catch you up. I ended up quilting the pieces on the long arm, and I made chenille strips. I'm not gonna go into detail of the process, just basically explain that I took 3 pieces of fabric, laid them on top of each other, and then sewed diagonally across the bias, and did that every 3/8 of an inch, and then cut those into strips. I sewed them on, but I am not exactly excited about how it looks at this point. I don't know, it doesn't look very good right now. So this is the point where I weigh out the decision. Do I just take off the chenille right now and redo it, or do I leave it as it is? If I take off this chenille, I cut down the pieces and then redo the chenille on my regular sewing machine. It might be worth it.
Psst, Angela, it's me from the future. Don't worry, you'll figure it out. Trust your instincts.
I'm trying to picture it in my mind, and I'm having a really hard time. I don't know what to do. I wish you could tell me what to do.
You can do it.
Okay, well, I'll think about it and you'll find out. Welcome to day 3. Wait, welcome to day 4 of this project. I did end up taking the chenille strips off of the pieces that I quilted, and I like the way that it turned out. So let me show you. I ended up putting the tulle strips kind of in little clusters in different parts of the piecing, and I also made pockets. So this is what it looks like so far. Oh my gosh. I did not plan this, but do you notice that my colors kind of match the colors that we have on our coat? That's totally coincident. I did not plan that. Okay, so we've got these 2 pieces like this. The back has a strip like this, and even the sleeves, I put some of these strips on, and I'm gonna wash those up so that they bloom. But I'm also thinking ahead to the collar. With this coat that I'm using, it originally had a collar that looked like this. And I don't really, I'm not really crazy about it. I've always wanted to do like more of a full length collar kind of thing that's almost like a scarf on it, kind of like this coat. That kind of front would look really nice on this jacket. I could piece a front like that. I have this idea of using an infinity scarf from the thrift store. I think what I'm gonna do today, I'm gonna take this pocket with me to the thrift store and see if I can come up with a scarf or something that I could attach to the front to make the collar.
Okay, let's go hunting.
My favorite place. Well, that was fun. The thrift store turned out to be more than just a trip to find an infinity scarf. What I did end up finding, that's of course not perfect, but the colors are perfect, is this scarf. I already ran it through the wash. It would look nice with this outfit if infinity scarves were still in style. I really don't care about style, so when I say that, I'm just kind of poking fun at it. Hey, if you like it, wear it. But I'll tell you, when you go to the thrift stores, there are walls of these hanging out. I really had wanted it to be a heavier fabric. This is really thin, and I could quilt it, I could line it. I still haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do it, but I do know that I want the collar to kind of come around and lay like a lapel. That was the word I was trying to think of before that I couldn't think of. Lapels. I could take this scarf, if I make this the seam and I go around, I don't know. The only way I'm going to find that out is by assembling the coat. So I need to put it together. But I did want to show you how why can't I ever think of words? I wanted to show you how the chenille turned out. The chenille in the wash didn't really bloom as much as I had wanted it to. Here's what it looks like. It is pretty cool so far though, isn't it? I love that color. I don't know, I guess it's kind of a denim look. But what I can do to help move the process along is use one of these. Most of us have one of these in our basement or garage. It's actually a wallpaper paste brush. And I like it because it's nice and wide. So I can really get in there and kind of distress and work up that chenille so it looks a little more frayed, a little more distressed. Plus remember, because we have a lot of raw edges on these blocks, we're gonna maybe try to distress that up. So all we do is take this brush and whoosh it out. Observe. You can do like a fast motion too. I gotta do all these pieces. La di da di da di da di da. La di da. La di da. I'm gonna try to put this puzzle together. It's kind of like chess. You have to think, where do I want to end up? And then think backwards. I wanted to show you the process so far. Get in your spot. I got it halfway sewn together. I was just double checking the seams and how it fits and goes together. One thing I'm gonna have to do differently is in the front, since I'm gonna add that scarf, I'm gonna need to trim this edge. You see how this right now is a straight seam, because normally the collar would come like this. I want the collar to come down like this. So I'm gonna have to cut an angle there. So just a real subtle line there. Now that I've got it sewn together, so halfway, I'm much happier with the way that it's coming out. Let me give you an idea of what it's gonna look like. So I'm going to kind of make that like that, and this is gonna come down like that. We'll figure it out, but I like the way that it's looking. And you know, you would have, this is the fun thing about thrifting, is if you're willing to do the hunt, look how well this scarf looks with this chenille. I mean, it's like, I swear I did not go buy this first. I just love it. I love the hunt. I love the hunt. Okay, I'm gonna go finish. We are on day 5 of this project. As you can see, I have changed up the collar. I tried using that infinity scarf as the collar and it just didn't have the right flow. I think the fabric was too thin and this coat is thick because it's quilted and it just didn't look right. What I ended up doing is I took some of the scraps from the project so far and I made it into a lapel. I've temporarily pinned it on here to see what it looks like. It's okay. I'm not totally happy with it yet, but I've got a plan to make it work a little better. Honestly, right now, to me, it kind of looks like something you would see a priest wear. Like one of those, I don't know what it's called. It's that thing that goes around the neck. And I think maybe I need to bring it in a little bit. The other thing that I did is when I made it originally, I made it the same on both sides and it looked very, you know, matchy-matchy, which I'm not a fan of. So what I did is I just took some scraps from the inside lining, which is that bed sheet, and I added that to pieces on this collar, as well as some more chenille strips. I'm gonna have to run these through the washer to make them bloom a little bit because they don't look good yet. So I added that to just kind of make it contrasting, and I think I'm gonna add one of my zipper pins right up here. I'll show you those in the reveal. But I definitely want to add an edge to this. I could just finish it by folding it over, but I want to add a little bit of that blue to make a pop. So since I really did like that infinity scarf, I ended up making it into strips. It's a magic trick. It just keeps coming and coming. These are 3-inch strips. So when I attach it, I'm going to fold it in half and I'm going to sew it somehow on here, either to the back and then fold it over like that. So just a little bit of it will show. And I'm not only going to go around the lapel, I'm going to go around the base of the coat, as well as even these cut edges on the sleeves. I'm hoping I can finish this up today and get some pictures taken. But I think she's turning out really nice. Yeah, clerical. It looks very clerical to me.
Marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today.
We'll fix that. I think it's time to wrap it up. Did you like this video? If so, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. I love the way this coat turned out. Who would have thought that a vintage sheet like this could inspire a coat like this? It had its challenges, but it all turned out great in the end. Some of the changes that I made is I did add buttons to the cuffs. These are buttons that a customer gave to me. Thank you, Carolyn. I love them. They worked really well with this jacket. I was gonna add a button in the front, but then I decided that I like the open feel to it. I'm probably gonna wear it more as a fashion jacket, not like being outdoors and things. So I like that it's open. I also ended up not putting the pockets on the outside. I just felt like it looked too cluttered. So I did put one pocket on the inside, and I added my label on the pocket as well. This is really nice for storing, you know, your cell phone and things like that inside, because I feel like pockets are a necessity with any outfit. You need to have a pocket. I also added this zipper flower that I made. This flower I actually made quite a while ago out of some vintage zippers that I had and an antique button. If you'd like to see a video on how to make these, leave me a comment below. Lastly, this is just so cozy. Who wouldn't want to wear a blanket all day? So this is perfect for weather, especially in Wisconsin. I hope that you feel inspired to do your own projects. One of the things I do on purpose when I make these videos is to show you how I change things and how I think things through, because I want you to be able to know that you can artfully sew. Just give yourself time, give yourself the grace to make mistakes. You've got the seam ripper, you've got scissors. If it's not working, set it aside, come back to it later, but just keep sewing. The more you try, the better you'll get, and those creative juices will just keep on flowing. And remember, you can artfully sew. Bye.
Do you want to see how I made this smock? Well, then check out my next video. It's right there. Or maybe it's under there. Or maybe it's up there. I'm not sure. Just check it out.